Good morning. I'm going to call to order the Board of Directors regular meeting of December 1st, 2022. It is 10 a.m. exactly. The first item of business is the invocation. And that will be done by our Secretary, Diane Costas.
Thank you. Good morning, Lord, and we thank you for this glorious day and this season, Lord. And Father, we thank you for just giving up a position, Lord, where we can represent those in our community. Father, you hold those in leadership more accountable, Lord. And Father, we just ask that you be with us today, Lord, as we discuss the things that are important for this community, Lord. Give us your wisdom, your knowledge. Your thoughts are not our thoughts, Lord. They're much higher. And so, Father, we ask you to be here for that. Father, again, this is a season of joy, of Thanksgiving. And Father, we know that because we celebrate your birth this month, Lord, that man shall live forevermore. And Father, I ask, Lord, that you ever remind us of those less fortunate, Lord, that these times may be more difficult for them. So Lord, let us be your eyes and hands. Lord, let us be out in our communities, helping those that are less fortunate, because that's what you would be doing. So Father, I thank you for this time, Lord. Father, I pray for traveling mercies as people come and go during this time. And Father, I thank you for everyone here today and the families that are represented. We ask all things in the name of your Son, our Lord Jesus. Amen.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Texas flag. Honor the Texas flag. Pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible. Thank you. Introductions. There's no introductions on the board side, as far as I don't think we have standard members. Mr. Christina, do you have any introductions?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I do. I'm pleased to introduce two new members of the DCTA staff, and I'll introduce them in order of tenure. First, Mr. Bracy Goodwin joins us as our Director of Safety and Compliance, responsible to ensure our compliance with the requirements from the federal government, as well as our own standards to enhance and improve our safety culture. He brings a wealth of knowledge and experience with him. He started his career as a life crew, air crew life safety specialist in the Air Force. Those are the people who work on the ejection seats and the air crew survival kits and all that sort of stuff. And then spent some time at the Central Ohio Transit Authority versus a bus operator, then an accident investigator. He brings a lot of experience with him and certifications in the safety realm, and we are very happy to have him. So thank you. Very good to meet you. Very good to have you here, Bracy.
Welcome.
And then second, Mr. David Magana started with us on Monday. He's our new Director of Marketing and Communications. He brings a wealth of marketing and communications experience with him, most notably from DFW International Airport, where he was involved with marketing of international travel services, as well as the introduction of the Orange Light Rail line into the north end of the airport. We are very happy to have him and look forward to all the things he's going to do to enhance the value of DCTA amongst our stakeholders. So thank you very much, David.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Yes, welcome to both. I'm sure you're quite pleased to at least start filling those.
We are thrilled and look forward to having more introductions in January. So thank you. Mr.
Great.
Chairman.
Okay, with that, we'll move on to public comments. And this agenda item provides an opportunity for citizens to address the DCTA Board of Directors on any agenda items or other matters related to DCTA. Each speaker will be giving a total of 3 minutes to address any items. Anyone wishing to speak shall be courteous and cordial. Speakers making personal, impertinent, profane, or slanderous remarks may be removed from the meeting. Unauthorized remarks from the audience, stamping of the feet, whistling, yells, clapping, and similar demonstrations will not be permitted. Citizens that are not able to participate in person must email his or her comments to Ms. Keisha Morris Perkins at dca.net no later than 3 p.m. on Wednesday, November 30th, 2022, to ensure that the comments will be distributed to board members prior to the meeting. This time I have two speaker cards. Our first speaker will be Ms. Eva Greco. Ms. Greco, you have 3 minutes. Good morning, Ms. Greco.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I was looking over the agenda at home and I was once again very disappointed to have here an amendment, 10th Amendment on Go Zone. 9th Amendment is actually customer service, which there is no customer service. Early Saturday AM, Go Zone, Go Zone. Then you have a contract with Lyft, extending services for them. Nothing on here about fixed routes again, which in the next month, another one will be, a few lines will be eliminated again. We have been coming for years, and instead of improving your fixed routes, you are eliminating fixed routes. I know in the last month, there have been numerous motor vehicle accidents with Go Zones. Okay, that's not going to be in the report, the monthly report that you get from Javier, that is created by VIA, not by DCTA. So these are all the things that you deceptively keep from the public. You hired a group of people to go before legislation, but you're not telling the public the truth. You're not going to tell legislation the truth of what's really going on and how disappointed the public is with Go Zone and with DCTA overall. You have your core values, your mission statements, etc. And DCTA, this board is not holding to any of those values or your core missions. And the only thing we can hope for is that somebody from the legislation, because they're average people like you and I, and just hope that they are listening to the public when they listen to your representatives and know the real story of what's going on behind DCTA. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. The second card I have is from Christine Bray. Ms. Bray, you have 3 minutes. Good morning.
Good morning. Hello, everyone. I just wanted to come and say that I was very heartened by the discussion that happened at the last board meeting around the utility of fixed routes going forward and using GoZone as a data collection tool to help plan and manage routes. I think that is very promising, and I hope to see you guys act on it soon. Thank you.
Thank you. That's all the cards I have at this time. Anything else? Okay. Okay, so with that, we'll move on to the consent agenda. Is there a motion on the consent agenda, or is there a board member like to take an item out for individual consideration?
I move approval of the consent agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda as stated. Any further discussion? Not all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Now we'll move into our regular agenda. The first item is the discuss enterprise van pool program. And Javier is going to be the presenter.
Good morning, Board of Directors. My name is Javier Trilla, AVP of Innovation and IT here at DCTA. I'm sure you're all used to hearing me up here talking about GoZone or information technology projects, but today I'll be up here to talk about our 4th largest generator of ridership, our van pool program. For reference sake, of the 2.2 million rides that DCTA served in FY 2022, over 200,000 of those rides were served by our van pool program. As we look towards our 2030 ridership goals, our van pool program will be a very large portion of that success. This is only a briefing item, so no action will be required at the end of this presentation. So today's presentation, I'll be providing a brief history and outline of the program, how it works, who our customers are, and last but not least, everything's favorite, ridership statistics. DCTA's van pool program is part of the North Central Texas Council of Governments Regional Van Pool Program. Operated by DCTA and Trinity Metro with the assistance of grant funding, it is a zero-cost program to DCTA as the remainder of the cost is covered by the passengers who use the system. So what is a van pool? A van pool allows employees who live nearby to connect and ride together in what is essence a large leased carpool vehicle. These employees are often in locations not served by traditional fixed route or transit modes and offer cities who traditionally would not think about transit a low barrier of entry option to move employees into their cities. So we work with Enterprise to operate our van pool services, and Enterprise does the work to connect the passengers. They provide a recent model van or SUV, provide a common meeting point location for passengers, and then those van pool participants take turns driving the vehicles to and from work. With this program, Enterprise is responsible for all. Apparently, I'm ahead of myself, but that's okay. Enterprise is responsible for all maintenance of the vehicle. All the passengers have to do is fill up the tank. So up on the screen here, you see 3 of our most common vehicles that we use throughout the system. Ranging from SUVs to larger vans, van pools are incredibly cost effective. They range anywhere from $700 to $805 per month, depending on the size of the vehicle. And these costs are split amongst passengers. So 15-person van, $800 a month. You can see it turns into a pretty cost-effective solution for passengers. Any questions so far? Next slide. This isn't working. Okay. In 2022, there were some changes to the regional van pool program. In March, after discontinuation of the DART van pool program, the service zones were redistributed amongst DCTA and Trinity Metro. This resulted in a new 3-year contract with Enterprise that allows all 3 agencies the time to work to create a regional van pool RFP for a provider, for a regional provider. The current target date for this RFP process is May of 2025. So we have a 3-year contract in place with Enterprise. It'll continue to serve throughout that whole process while all 3 agencies work together. So to kind of break down this map a little bit, rides originating in yellow, so Denton, Collin County, Hunt, Rockwall, and Kaufman are served by DCTA's van pool program, while the remainder of the blue areas is served by Trinity Metro's program, so including Dallas and Tarrant County. The green Wise County area is kind of interesting, where rides that originate in Wise County but terminate in Denton are served by DCTA's van pool program. So here we have a list of our current van pool partners, businesses, and participants on the system. Pretty common names that we've seen out here before. And looking forward, with our new Director of Marketing and Communications in place, and with outreach from our government relations team, we're looking to bring more employers and cities into the van pool program as we focus on advertising efforts and marketing collateral to businesses in the surrounding area. One of the benefits to working with Enterprise is that once the connection to the employer is made, Enterprise does a lot of work behind the scenes. They coordinate with the employees, they coordinate with the employers, they set up the locations, and they do all the required work to set up all the new van pools as well. Now, everyone's favorite thing, because it wouldn't be a Javier presentation if there isn't a graph of some sort up here. So here's our van pool ridership data over the course of FY22. You can see we carry about 20 to 21,000 riders per month, every month on van pool. That number has gone up, of course, somewhat since we've taken over the van pool programs of DART's remainder. So in FY21, we saw 216,000 rides or so, and a 6% increase in FY22 to 230,000 rides for the year. This program is unique in the sense that employers and employees utilizing the van pool program, they tend to be large manufacturing plants or distribution locations that typically aren't served by fixed route transit or other transit modes. And due to the nature of the work, shift work and so on and so forth, the ridership for this program was almost completely unaffected during the COVID-19 pandemic. So it's really a strong contributor to our ridership overall, and one that we'll be continuing to lean on moving forward. So that concludes my briefing on the subjects. If you guys have any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Any questions for
Where I
Javier?
can. Johnny in the spot.
What did you say about May of 2025? Is that the contract or what What is that?
Right. So the three agencies are working towards a regional Vanpool provider. So they're working over the course of the next several years to put together an RFP for one provider for all three agencies to use. So DART, DCTA, Trinity Metro working together for one provider for the region. Again, in March of 22, DART discontinued their program, which is why Trinity Metro and DCTA distributed those remaining areas amongst themselves.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions?
How are the vans identified or marked? Are they just?
The vans have DCTA logos on the side for areas that are served by DCTA and Trinity Metro for those regions.
Allison?
Thank you. So, you know, you pointed out that this is one of the agency's most consistently successful programs over the years. And you mentioned that there is an eye toward expanding the program, targeting more employers particularly. Can you talk more about what that looks like? Are there particular parts of, you know, either Denton County or those other yellow counties where there are opportunities that, you know, DCTA wants to pursue?
So a good example, a few months back, we were up in front of Flower Mound Town Council, and we actually presented a few different options of DCTA services that we offer, all the tools in the toolbox that we have. So interest was interesting, but really the service that had the most interest was our Vanpool program. So that's one area that we're looking at moving forward as far as where DCTA is looking for more outreach and some expansion of the services into that area.
Yeah, and then I can piggyback on that to say, when we talk about our business plan and the growth plan for the agency over the course of the next several years, the opportunity to market this service is one of the reasons that David Magana is here, to figure out who is our market and who are those stakeholders and how do we go about getting in front of them. So a core part of what we're going to be about moving forward. And you see the types of facilities, there are manufacturing facilities with the growth of distribution facilities and other 24-hour types of operations. We feel like this is something that has proven itself durable, has grown without marketing. So with a little bit of attention, it can grow even more.
How long have we been doing this?
I'll have to get back to you on that one. I think it's back into the mid two.
I was about to say, it's been a long time. I know that as I've worked to attract new businesses to the county, that's always been a talking point. You know, major employers coming to the county, relocating a lot of distribution centers and warehouses and so forth. Been able to mention this, not always piques their interest. So I think this is, I'm glad to see the numbers and see that it's this successful.
Again, it's kind of one of those things over the course of the summer, as we've been looking at the agency and what are our opportunities. It's one of these things that's always been there in the background. And now with the opportunity to shine some more light on it, we're looking forward to that.
Right. I think that I know that staff has this mindset, but I want to kind of name it like directly, that, you know, the agency is really trying to grow our footprint, right, and serve more people and serve more of, especially Denton County, but through Vanpool, we have opportunities to serve other counties, including Collin County, where we know there's a huge need for transit services. And I'm really glad to see us thinking about different modes, including Vanpool, as being ways to draw new users into the system, right? And Vanpool is so great because it's so flexible and it's so successful. And I really look forward to seeing us continue to view it as an opportunity to reach new people, and maybe once we have them as Vanpool customers, find opportunities to encourage them to use other services if that's available to them in their area.
And importantly, cost of DCTA as well. So that's kind of
Right.
a nice perk from that as well. So that's all right.
Just as a user several years ago, I worked a night shift in at FedEx. And Alliance Airport was divided by part DART, part Trinity, and people would very quickly introduce themselves as you know, I got a van, in the work. And me living in Collin County, never was able to participate in that. Sounded pretty good. So I'm really excited to see, I really am, about expanding network and that it's covered Alliance. And I think when the marketing gets lined up, Alliance will provide quite a bit of users too, because we certainly need that.
Thanks.
Okay.
Javier, would you mind reminding me why did DART decline or stop their van pool system? Is that just to queue up the RFP or?
From what I understand, there were some difficulties with their RFP process and then with their ultimate selection for a van pool provider. I guess, well, what I understand, the van pool provider they selected didn't work out. They opted to not use enterprise moving forward. And the provider they had issues getting vehicle shortage, so on and so forth. And that program just didn't pan out. So the COG split it amongst us.
On the ridership listing I'm assuming that's an all-inclusive number. It includes rides that are not specifically Denton County.
Correct. That's all that DCTA serves with that, the yellow region of it.
On the RFP side, because we were chatting about this yesterday. I get the focus on industrial shift work makes total sense. Really good fit. I wonder if there couldn't be some innovation on the supplier side to create some sort of portal where people might be able to create their own van pools without necessarily having to figure out all the logistics of it, right? You put in your information. I live here, I work here, I need to be here from this time to that time. And then there's some software on the back end. This is coming from an IT guy, so I understand it's not all pure flipping magic. It takes time and work, but if there's an opportunity there to take that and then build a van pool out of user submitted data.
I believe that actually is how it works. So
Okay.
the forms are submitted through our website, Trinity Metro's website. I think even through Enterprise's website. I could be incorrect on that, but then the information is taken into by Enterprise, and they do all the black magic behind the scenes and connect all those pastors together, pick the common location. There's really no work by the pastors don't have to do any legwork to get this set up.
Okay.
Enterprise does all the
Then that's
connection.
my ignorance of the tech. So that's great. So yeah, I mean, if there's an RFP that allows that to really get strengthened where we can even put it on the website and it pops up, hey, you match with van pool X. I mean, you could get that right away. That would be pretty frictionless. I could say.
Enterprise, they've been a strong partner and a strong support provider on the back end as well.
Thanks for the info. Appreciate it.
Any other questions, comments? All right, thank you, Javier.
Thank you very
Appreciate
much.
it. Okay, on to the next item. Discuss Denton County Transportation Authority missions, visions, and core values. And this is going to be between Minerva and Paul. Are you?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. So we have Ashley Elsie joining us via remote. And so I will kick it over to her so she can walk through where we are in our process from our June strategic visioning session about where our agency is going and what we want to be about. Ashley and her team have done a great job of putting together all that input. We've talked about key messages in the past. Now we've developed that in between staff and her team on our core values and mission and vision. And so with that, I'll turn it over to Ashley. Ashley, it's all yours. Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning. Thank y'all. I apologize that I am not there, but we had a flu outbreak and I'm just trying to be cautious and sensitive to not hose anyone down with it if we don't have to.
Well, thank you.
You no problem. If you don't mind going to just the primary slide. First, I just want to say that this has been such a privilege for us to be part of this process for you guys. And one of the things that I think has been particularly encouraging is the engagement of the board and all of you in our kickoff sessions and in the different presentations and calls that we've had. but also in the way in which Paul and his team have truly taken all of this on, adopted it, integrated it, put it into measurable goals for their team. We do this work a lot, and I'm just really, really proud of Paul and his group in the ways in which they have really tried to make this their own, and have really put it into practice. So I just wanted to open with that and just really herald their group, Brittany, Paul, and what all they're accomplishing. To sort of quickly ground us in where we've been, we've had the different sessions. Through those sessions, we came up with some key messages that should really be grounding in how the organization talks about itself internally and externally, how it shows up to different groups. We sort of landed on driving Denton County's people for work, for play, for life. And that is really coming through as sort of the tag. If you want to scroll to the next slide, please, to the values. So these core values, we spent a lot of time internally on our team talking about it. I know Paul also, they wrestled with all of these to make sure that these reflected and represented who they want to be and what they want to drive towards. Safety, community, innovation, accessibility, stewardship, and prosperity. And all of these will continue to have definition around them, but these 6 values have been a collaboration between Minerva and between Paul and his team to think through what do they want sort of those undergirding principles and values to be, and also what can you measure against? How are these going to be reflected and showing up? And you'll hopefully be able to feel that these values, the essence of all of these values, come from the conversations and the messaging work that we did together. And I'm just going to pause for a minute to see if anyone has any thoughts, comments, questions, but otherwise I'll keep going.
You have any thoughts, anyone?
Can you go back a slide for me? I'm just throwing this out there just because we went round and round on this internally. And I get the Denton County giving it a place, giving it ownership. We're also talking about Wise County and Collin County and all these other communities that we are serving or hope to serve that aren't necessarily Denton County, and driving people. I love the forward for play for life piece, but I mean, we drive people. Do we necessarily drive Denton County's people? I'm just throwing it out there. I get both sides of the coin. And maybe we want to have more of that Denton County ownership on it. But that was the thought.
I think it's a great point, and we are walking the line of stewarding our member city and county resources alongside this idea of expansion and growth to add value over the long term. And so we haven't carved any of this into stone tablets just yet. So there's still time to move, but that's a conversation that we can continue to have for sure. It's a good point.
I think that's a fair point, and I'll just offer that, when you think about how this tag will show up, it's often going to be, Denton County Transportation Authority. So it would not be unreasonable to be able to say driving our people for work, for play, for life. The R does reflect some community and some inclusivity there. So, that could be a way to think about it. So I think that's a fair and good point. And I think it's something worthwhile for the team to talk through and think about.
Any other comments? Thoughts?
Yes, I was kind of thinking the same thing. Don't behave. We don't do that well. So, and I know we talked about not wordsmithing this, but it's just so hard. So driving the people of Denton County. And then I think to TJ's point, because I was thinking about that as well, that under innovation or one of those other listings is reaching out to all communities of Denton County and other counties or whatever. But I think because right now we are Denton County Transportation Authority. But rather than driving Denton County, can we drive the people of Denton County and then add in under one of those other headings, you know, innovation, like bringing in other counties or whatever. I think we can expand on that. Just some thoughts.
Well, as the county guy, we are DCTA. I understand your sentiment a little bit, Mayor, but we are DCTA, Denton County Transportation Authority. And I know we are doing some outreach to other areas and everything, but I think those are mild in comparison to what our core functions are that we're currently doing. You know, so I think campaigns change, themes change over time, organizations change over time. I think it's okay for kind of where we're at in the we're at in the near future. As we, you know, things change and we're very robust and successful here in the county. And we look to do a lot of external outreach. And I think, you know, we can have those conversations then, but I think, I hear what you're saying, but I think where we're at now in the life of the organization, I think it's okay to develop a sense of pride within the geographical boundaries of the county. That's gonna be my position.
I feel like I might have made this suggestion during the retreat in the summer, but I don't remember. I hear you on the driving Denton County's people, because we aren't strictly serving people who are like literally residents of Denton County. But generally speaking, we are moving people who are at least visiting Denton County. So I feel like just removing the word people from that, it doesn't do, you know, what we were talking about as far as like driving our people creates that sense of ownership, community, that, you know, talking about people, which is, you know, it's nice to use the word people and keep that at the center of what we're talking about. But driving Denton County is snappy. It sounds nice. And it acknowledges that we are driving people who are in Denton County, not necessarily people who are from Denton County, and still maintains that acknowledgement that like, this is Denton County. This is, you know, it's funded by revenue from Denton County. And this is the core of what we're doing, even though we would like to expand our footprint.
And I think to Ashley's point, if I were seeing this by itself as I am right now, then I think there's absolutely a good reason for adding the words Denton County in there. But if I only ever see this in the context of a DCTA logo with a tagline underneath it, then it could be redundant. So again, that might be a use case. So I was just putting out there for comment, not that I've been on both sides of this coin. That's why I just kind of threw it out there. So I completely understand where the judge is coming from. And you know what? We do take pride in being Denton County. So I don't mind having Denton County in there twice, even if we're going to go that way. But just as we look at the messaging, what is the context it's in?
I just think one is if the organization, which is so robust and changing and vibrant and goes outside the boundaries, I think that we talk about that in the future. That's a great problem to have. I think where we're at right now, trying to be huddle up, cover our core bases and be very successful. I think for the life of the organization now, I think we'd be okay. That's just my point.
Good conversation.
I think as you consider the brand development.
It's basically just everybody had a thought and we'll probably just leave it for now. But yeah. So okay.
Thank you for
Ashley?
indulging me.
No problem. I was just gonna affirm some of what you guys are saying, you know, as you use this time to really continue to present the overarching brand of DCTA, it's okay to be specific about who you're serving and who you are. And as you think about your growth plan and your strategic plan over the next several years, if you then become something that is serving something much broader than Denton County, then this is a language that you can evolve. So it can evolve with you. I mean, one of the things that I really liked about how this all came together is that this does give you, and it's intentional, it gives you space and freedom to move within it. So I just would have that also in the back of your mind.
Okay.
If you want to head to the mission statement, please. So we've already kind of talked about this a little bit because this is the mission. So getting our people where they need and want to go for work, for play, for life. Obviously, you don't have Denton County in this, particularly specifically around because it's going to be under the DCTA headline.
Okay.
And then
Thoughts?
finally, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just making sure people are just kind of processing it. I'm watching. Okay, go ahead and move on to the next one.
Then the vision statement. DCTA is driving a better future for Denton County by providing innovative mobility options, supporting the region's economic growth, creating community engagement, and promoting sustainable transportation. When you think about the vision, this is where we're heading. It is aspirational. It's what you're working towards. And I think that you'll see the values all show up inside this, as do the messages that we've talked about before. And for Paul and his team, I think each of these, if you think about them almost like, sort of individual phrases that are coming together to create a vision, it gives Paul and his team also clear direction in which they can head, and also measurable goals in which they can work against. And I know that Paul is already actively working on doing a lot of that. And Paul, I don't know if you want to speak to that at all.
No, you summed it up very well. Thank you.
Okay.
And then the remaining slides are just kind of refreshing you of the key messages, which is where a lot of this started. We can go back over it if you want to. I'm happy for us to talk about it. But what I'm most excited about is that I know that Paul and his team have put these into practice, so that he is working with his team and able to come up with measurable goals for the different teams and the different departments as it relates to these. So just quickly, we can run through them. Getting each person where they need and want to go. Public transportation is a game changer for the region, connecting individuals to jobs, entertainment, businesses to communities, and towns to one another. DCTA provides public transportation to support the lives of every member of the Denton County community. DCTA continually innovates its service offerings to evolve with the individuals and communities we serve. Making it easy for the rider, DCTA aims to enhance the quality of life for our riders by delivering predictable, timely, and trustworthy public transportation. DCTA continually improves our system to ensure every rider's experience is safe, convenient, and reliable. DCTA employs the latest technology to ensure our riders can move easily and efficiently wherever they need to go. And then finally, driving a better future for Denton County. DCTA helps drive the region's economy, transporting our people everywhere from city, square to downtown. Every station on the transit line represents opportunity for economic development and community engagement. DCTA's public transportation help leads the county's sustainability efforts, providing energy efficient and economical solutions.
Okay.
Again, just want to thank you guys so much. Are any questions?
Anybody want to go over any slides or core values or anything? Okay, Allison.
A little bit of more with wordsmithing, okay? Because I have one that I feel is key. So driving a better future for Denton County. First of all, I love that phrase. But DCTA helps drive the region's economy, transporting our people everywhere from city square to downtown. This is so nitpicky, but in Denton, those are the same thing. And I can't think of anywhere in Denton County where those aren't this. I mean, there isn't any other city that has a city square, a square. But I don't know, that wording is strange to me, given that we are talking about a particular place with a particular square and a few downtowns.
That must be not the, is that the right slide?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay.
Yeah. So my quibble is, I'm sorry, this is so picky. It says transporting our people everywhere from city square to downtown. If you're in Denton and you're going from the city square to downtown, that's the same place. Okay, yeah. Fair enough.
You can fix it. You can fix it by just making downtown plural. From city square to downtowns.
Downtown population centers.
Downtown as a broader concept, like you could get to downtown Dallas. I think that you could get. to
Correct.
downtown- You could get to downtown Carrollton, you could get to downtown Louisville, you could, I think that would be the.
What about from
a
small
variety.
town square to urban center? That implies that Denton's a small town. What about from
I don't know if it implies Denton's a small, it just implies from a small town to a big city. And maybe that's what you want to do. I don't know. I'm just
small town to urban center?
from small town to,
We don't
Mm,
represent-
I don't like that. No, never mind. No,
I think
no,
it's okay as presented.
okay. Never mind.
And then I just have one more, if we can go to the slide before that. So in the third bullet, the latest technology to ensure our riders can move easily and efficiently wherever they need to go. I think one of the things we had said, need and or want to go. So I just want to keep that consistent. That's it for me. Thank you.
you want to look at any other slides? Since we,
I think they did a great job, and I like the fact that the word regional is several times mentioned to the mayor's point. That it's part of a bigger regional system, and I think that's good that y'all acknowledge that 2 or 3 times throughout the language. I think that was good. That was good.
what are the next steps after this?
That's a great question. So back on the core values slide, we intend to spend time amongst staff defining what those core values mean to DCTA. So what that looks like is me sitting down with every team. So the engagement administration team, the finance team, the bus ops team, and soliciting sort of input on what does this mean to your team? And then over the course of the summer, spring and summer, putting that together into definitions that allow us to determine whether or not we're living into our core values. And we'll share that with you all as it comes together. But those are, I think, really good words for us, reflecting the sorts of things that you all have told us are important to the board and your communities and the constituents you serve. And so I just want to say I want to thank the board for having undertaken the process back in June to sit down and have this conversation, because it has turned out to be really central to all this construction that we've done over the course of the summer and into the winter on getting the agency where we are right now. So thank you very much for that. And to Ashley and her team, I really appreciate the work that they've done to bring a very professional, very effective approach to capturing all this various input and bringing it together very succinctly in a way that we can stack hands on it and move forward. So thanks, Ashley, and your team as well.
Thank you, guys. Thank y'all.
Thanks,
you.
Ashley.
Thank you.
Bye. Appreciate it.
Bye-bye. Okay, that takes us to our next item. Consider approval of resolution and adoption of a public transportation agency safety plan. Had Tina and Paul. Or is it- you can
Yes,
just
Mr.
take
Chairman,
it?
I'll take the lead on this, and I'll be joined by a couple of members of our AECom team, who was the consulting firm that helped us put this document together. If you all could jump on and introduce yourself, that'd be great.
Good morning. Thank you to the chair and the members of the board for this opportunity to assist in clarifying any questions you have. My name is Chris LaRue, and I was the project manager for this, and I'll pass it to Amelia.
Hi, I'm Amelia Sword Taylor. I also helped out with this plan. Thank you for having us.
Thank you both for being here. So members of the board, in your packet on regular agenda item 3, you see a write-up about what the Public Transportation Agency Safety Plan is. DCTA has had a form of this safety plan in effect for some time now, but you see in the background of the memo, the bipartisan infrastructure law. Under that law, the Federal Transit Administration was required to come forward to transit agencies and make an update of that plan that would do primarily those 5 things that are enumerated below, really revolving around this idea of formation of a safety committee and creating a construct by which there's regular dialogue about safety at public agencies, which is something that, of course, we can all get behind. And so this plan that we had was updated, and the plan is included in your packet. And that is the one that we will be asking for your approval on. And I just want to touch on, I want to fly over this at a pretty high level to give you the highlights. And then, of course, we can have any conversation that you want to. This slide just illustrates that the safety plan is a continually evolving plan. And what that means is we don't just approve this and then let it sit on the shelf. Bracy Goodwin, who you met at the beginning of the meeting, is really going to be the one who shepherds our agency through this process, where constantly we're evaluating our operations and evaluating what are the risks in our operation relative to life safety and the people who interact with our system, whether it be employees or riders. And so we'll talk about that SMS or safety management system process here shortly. Then we evaluate our safety outcomes based on metrics that we'll talk about here in a second. And then we report our performance against those safety metrics through our annual National Transit Database reporting, which is the primary means by which we communicate with Federal Transit Administration about how we're doing with regard to ridership and safety performance. So next slide, please. So inside the P-task, there is a number of tables that I summarized into this one that just identify what are our safety targets for our various modes. And it's important to note that the railroad or our A-train operation is regulated for safety under the Federal Railroad Administration. So that's why it's not in this plan. However, what Bracy will be doing is looking at our rail operation and our operations covered by this plan to ensure, and things that aren't necessarily addressed, like our van pool program, to make sure that we have a consistent application of our high standards across all the modes that we operate. So again, this is a summary of a lot of the tables that were in the plan, but what you see here is we're looking at, over the course of the last 3 years, how many of these safety events have there been? And then what's the rate of those safety events based on 100,000 vehicle revenue miles? And so for motor bus, for example, that's our fixed route service. That would be both Connect and the UNT service. How many, there were 4 safety events, those sort of FTA classified incidents, which comes to a rate of 0.31 incidents annually. And that is really now the baseline by which we evaluate our performance. And because we're looking at what we did over the past 3 years, we ought to be seeing continuous improvement. We have a target based on what we've done historically, and then we want to beat that target. And that's how we get down to create to be able to achieve ultimately a vision for 0 safety incidents on our network. Same thing on the injury side. How many personal injuries and what is that injury rate? So motor bus, like I said, is the fixed route service. Demand response and direct operated, that's our paratransit and access service. Those rides that are called for by individuals who qualify to use that system. And then the micro transit service really is our Go Zone service and the other micro transit based platforms that we operate. And that says insufficient data because we haven't had yet 3 years of operation. So once, obviously we're tracking those numbers. We talked about that over the summer. We continue to talk about those on a weekly basis as a staff. And once we get to the 3rd year of operation or the 4th year of operation, we'll start seeing those metrics. But that doesn't mean that we have to wait. We can start, again, looking at and improving upon those metrics today. Next slide, please. So this goes through a bit of our safety, talking about safety risk management. And what the process is all about is first about identifying what are those hazards. So Bracy, for example, is going around looking at our shops, Even though they're contractor operated, looking inside of our shops, looking at where people get on and off of vehicles. Again, anywhere where a person might have an exposure or a risk, which could be really stepping off of a rail car onto ballast and have the opportunity to turn ankles and things like that. And then looking at, and so we identify those risks in a table that kind of looks like what you see on the bottom right of the slide. And so let's skip to the next one, please. So imagine a list of risks that have been identified over the course of all of our modes of travel. And then we index those risks based on what's the probability of that sort of safety incident occurring. And then if it does occur, how severe is it? Is it a catastrophic sort of event, or is it relatively insignificant, meaning no one is harmed or no equipment is damaged, all that sort of stuff. And that gives us the metric, the places in red: frequent, catastrophic, frequent, even marginal, or occasional and catastrophic. That gives us the place that says we have to mitigate these risks, and we have to create a plan to mitigate those risks. And of course, that informs things like our budgeting process. For instance, one of the things we've talked about already is what happens if someone has a medical event involving their heart inside of a DCTA facility? Well, how do we mitigate that? We mitigate that through defibrillators and having people trained on how to use defibrillators and those sorts of things. And so that would be something you would expect to see in the future, where staff comes back during a budget process and says, this is a line item for the types of equipment needed to mitigate those risks across the organization. And then ultimately, once those risks are identified and the mitigation is defined, then we track our progress towards those. And so, again, one of the reasons we're so excited to have Bracy here is because he's well suited, well positioned to help shepherd our agency through this process. For what it's worth, in my time in the aviation community, airports have been doing this for a long time with regard to flight line operations and all that sort of thing. And so I'm excited to be able to have the DCTA undergo this process as well. Next slide, please. So one of the things, like I said at the outset, that's really important here is the establishment of this safety committee. That is the group of people who will ensure that we are on track to be compliant with our own key task. And I wanted to put this up here because we're asking you to approve the DCTA safety plan, and our relationship with NTMC is somewhat unique. And so I wanted to be really clear about what is happening here. So the DCTA safety committee is comprised of the positions that you see there on that slide. And that committee reports to me to be able to say, we are compliant, and these are the things we're identifying, and this is how we're mitigating all that sort of stuff. But one of the things the bipartisan infrastructure law wanted to accomplish, and one of the things that we want to have, is that our frontline workers, our bus operators, are well represented in the process, because oftentimes they have a lot of the best information about where they see things happen. And so we have NTMC will be standing up their own safety committee, and they're in the process of this right now. That will be the general manager, the assistant general manager, safety coordinator, and then 3 frontline employee representatives, giving us balance between frontline employees and supervisory employees. And then once they establish their safety committee, there's a meet and confer relationship between their safety committee and the DCTA safety committee. And that is the means by which we ensure good representation as required by the regulation in our safety process. Today, the safety committee at NTMC has not yet been approved by their board, but it is on their agenda on December the 8th for that to be approved. And so we've had HTG and Maurice Pearl, their general manager, working with the union to set this all up. And so we're looking forward to this being approved on the 8th. That doesn't stop this board from approving the DCTA safety plan. So that then we just know that we've got to get that piece from NTMC to plug into this, if that makes sense. Okay. So that's really the end of my presentation on this. Any questions that I can answer for you? Question? Paul?
Thanks so much. I have a few questions. So obviously, this is a document that we are required to produce because of federal regulations. And so it has to meet certain strict requirements, right? And one of those is that in order to set like a goal for the coming year, you have to have 3 years of data. And so that's why there's nothing in here about microtransit and what kinds of goals we might have for that. Is there any conversation around setting safety performance targets for microtransit that are just kind of internal, even though that's not something that we can report to the FTA?
So great question. Like I said, we're tracking that. Short answer is yes. We're tracking that safety performance. We're reviewing it on a weekly basis. As Bracy has gotten integrated into our organization, he's now becoming part of those weekly briefings. And we now have a year's worth of data on safety performance that we can see where the improvement is. There's nothing that stops us from saying we want to set a goal for ourselves in terms of incidents. And so we're working through what does that look like for us over the course of the coming months on the microtransit side.
Great, thank you so much. I look forward to that conversation. Similar question about, this document really doesn't directly address microtransit a whole lot because our microtransit program is new. But for example, the the safety, or I'm sorry, I'm scrolling the wrong way. Like the safety risk mitigation procedures and the monitoring and measuring and the safety event investigation is the one that I was really looking at. Do these procedures and policies also apply to contracted drivers through VIA? Or is this only NTMC, or is it also Rio Grande Pacific? Because the word bus is used in the text. So are we talking specifically about these are the procedures for NTMC?
No, ma'am, we're not. The microtransit is part of the process. Like, that's why it's included in the tables. The interesting thing is that microtransit is new to DCTA. It's also pretty new to the FTA, and they're getting their arms wrapped around how does this all work. And so we want to be a leader though in the safety space. And so even if it weren't required from the feds, we would be doing this internally to ensure our performance. And Javier's in regular conversation with VIA. We had their most senior leader on our account visit us just a couple of weeks ago, and we talked about our need for safety to be number one and to make sure that their side is doing the things they need to do to be safe on the road. And it is about all of the modes.
Okay, thank you. That answers my question. My last question is kind of more of a please help frame this for us.
Mhm.
So I apologize, I have the packet open and not the but yeah, if you could go back to the table that was talking about rates of different incidents.
Yep.
I wanted to ask about rate of injuries versus rate of safety events. So can you tell us a little bit more about what exactly qualifies as an injury that goes into that number and what exactly qualifies as a safety event that goes into that number? I know we talk a lot about FTA qualifying events. And I'd also like you to help us understand, pardon me, the relationship between those numbers, I guess, and which one, how much do we need to worry about safety events that don't result in injuries, I guess, is part of what I'm asking.
I have a thought on that, but I want to let Chris or Amelia take the first shot at that question. Differentiation on safety event and injury account. You can give the definition of what is an FTA qualifying incident that will be reflected in these numbers, and then what about incidents that don't cause injury, and how do we feel about that? So Chris or Amelia, can you go ahead?
Sure. So FTA typically will have a safety event if it's considered major enough to be reported at NTD. Those are the ones that we count. Those typically over a typical dollar amount in the case of a collision, or for injuries, for instance, That's typically somebody that has to visit the ER or a hospital or doctor within 24 hours of the event. And remember that you can also have, 2 injuries per event. The good news is that over 3 years, you've only had 4 and 5 injuries. So that's typically what those KPIs are.
Right, and so you can have a safety event that qualifies because a vehicle had to be towed from the scene, but nobody was
Right.
injured.
Towed from the
You can have an
scene.
incident, you can have one incident that has multiple injuries, that sort of thing. But one of the things that I really want to underline here is people can easily see when things happen on the road, and it causes things to go in people's minds like, well, this happens all the time. And so we need to be able to not just evaluate our performance from the measurables, but also the immeasurables, the stories that other people have in their mind about how safe our service is. And that's part of how we communicate about our service and how safe it is and all that sort of stuff. And so both of those are in mind for me as we're thinking about safety.
And then, of course, there's the financial cost of non-injury, of safety incidents that don't result in injuries,
Correct.
right? And I'm sure that's
And the fleet impacts and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much. So I appreciate that these are being, that those numbers are separated out in this document. I would love it if in all of our conversations about a safety reporting and the FTA qualifying incident reports that we give every month, if we could separate out those numbers, because we've been looking at FTA qualifying incidents, which is good. I think it's also valuable to see how many of those FTA qualifying incidents resulted in injuries, because that's, they're both important, right?
Yeah.
But it's for different reasons.
Very good, thank you.
Anybody else?
All
have
these
any
band
thoughts?
pools that we're doing are not on, this is a great report, by the way. Thank y'all. Good work. They're not part of this overall.
We didn't have any KPIs on van pool in the report that I recall. Chris, can you address how van pools are considered from a safety perspective?
I mean, you should still be tracking them, right? You'd still report, certain information to NTD every year on your van pool service. However, it's not part of the overall bus system safety requirements at this time. Now that may change.
I would hope that maybe before the 3 years is out, we can have at least some data that we can base ourselves for the micro transit. Maybe after 2 years, I hope we can get something.
We are endeavoring to make safety reporting part of just a core function of everything that we do. This weekly dialogue that we're having as a leadership team on what is our performance over the previous week is a big step forward from not talking about it at all, frankly. And so what we're doing in those conversations is trying to refine what is the succinct set of graphs and numbers that tells the story. And so we're very focused on that. I'd love to be able to get you something very soon. And so we will not go much longer without having that sort of KPI discussion across all of our modes with you all.
That's great. That's great. Other comment?
I first of all, I think it's great that we do have these numbers. This is a reporting thing, so I want to be really clear on that. I know there's been a comment out there about this being hidden or not part of it. This is because of reporting. It's not because we don't see safety numbers, and quite frankly, excellent safety numbers at this point for all of our modes. So I thank you guys for that, because I thought that was important when we brought it up and when we were starting to get those reports from the board's perspective. I think moving forward, if we can get to a point where because I'm sure we're going to have a safety page somewhere built into our digital media, if there's a way to put that information out to the public that way. I get that I saw a car, therefore they're all unsafe, is a narrative we have to constantly deal with. I mean, it's very hard for me as a board member or as an elected official to tell you, hey, my city's really safe when you got mugged. So there's a similar discourse that has to happen, but I think as long as we are transparent with the facts, that's going to help go a long way.
Yes, sir.
Anything else? I'll remind the board that this is an action item, so we will need a motion to approve the resolution.
Second.
Motion. We have a motion and we have a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. That takes us to item number 4, discuss local and regional transportation updates and legislative issues. I attended the DRMC meeting this past November, made a report on the agency's past work. We heard a presentation by Senate-elect Kelly Hancock, who provided a interesting story on a personal story on his struggles with a rare disease that impacted his function of his kidneys, and ultimately talked about a transplant that he received, and he's doing much better now. He did say that it will be a challenging session in his opinion, challenging only in that they have a large surplus, and like every time you have a surplus, he mentioned there's probably 3 times the wants that the money is there. And then plus the governor certainly wants to provide a lot of tax relief with that. So it'll be a challenge, and it'll be interesting. So we also had a North Texas transit tour that myself and our secretary was on. We had an opportunity to visit and interact with the chair and the vice chair of DART and the vice chair of Trinity Metro. Had a chance to talk to all get a presentation from Paul, as well as heard from Rick Andreski and his team make a presentation on Trinity Metro. So that was a very good, worthwhile presentation. Get a chance to talk to a couple of our newly elected officials, Representative-elect Krondit Timesh was on our tour, as well as representatives from various other offices. I can't recall them all. Do you have anything else you want?
Senator
Tan Parker, Senator-elect Tan Parker was also with us. Paul, do you have anything else to share on regional transportation issues?
No, sir, I do not.
Okay. Okay.
So November 10th, we had our RTC meeting under modifications for the 2022-23 Unified Planning Work Program. So the program is required by the federal and state transportation planning regulations, and it provides a summary of transportation and related air quality planning tasks to be conducted by all of the MPOs. The proposed modifications are being proposed to reflect new initiatives, project updates, funding adjustments, and update US DOT emphasis area. They also spoke about the changing mobility, data insights, delivering innovative projects during our COVID recovery. And so Mr. Morris talked about, according to this presentation, transit recovery in the region is approximately 61%, which includes DCTA, DART, and Trinity Metro recovery. Nationally, the American Public Transit Association is saying transit recovery is approximately 70%. And in fiscal year 2022, DCTA exceeded the pre-pandemic ridership due in large part to the nearly 700,000 completed trips on GoZone. Both the A train and Connect buses continue to see steady improvements. And in the month of October, the A train saw its highest ridership since February of 2020 with 23,069 passengers. We also approved the second read on our bylaws, the bylaw committee. So the proposed policy changes to the bylaws included addition of 13 new cities over 5,000 population, an additional seat for the city of Fort Worth, which leads to a complete roster of 45 members, addition of language related to county, city, group member appointments, including mandatory rotation, clarification of teleconferencing and person and video conferencing, language that affirms that members of the nominating committee will continue to be eligible and nominated as officers. And then language noting that the RTC will maintain public involvement procedures, including public comment rules and decorum requirements as part of the public participation plan. And then we had a pretty hefty discussion on something that they call the complete street. It's a resolution supporting a regional model for complete streets. And the way complete streets are defined is standards or policies that ensure the safe and adequate accommodation of all users of the transportation system, including pedestrians, bicyclists, personnel conveyance, micro mobility users, public transportation users, children, older individuals, individuals with disabilities, motorists, and freight vehicles. So there was a request to accept the regional model resolution, of which there were 5 areas noted. And this is where we had the hefty discussion. Of the 5 that were requested, we approved 2, number 1 and number 5. But it was a hefty discussion. And one of the things that we wanted to ensure is that the RTC or no one else was trying to tell cities how they had to comply with certain things. And we did experience over some of our legislator sessions what appeared to be the taking away of local control. So so we're hypersensitive. So our judge and I made some comments about some of these resolutions that they were looking at. And out of the 5, we did approve 2, and we'll see how that moves forward.
I remember you talking about this on our tour. You're saying that the 2 or the 3 that were not approved were the ones that had the most onerous, I think.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Requirements that we think, and they stress that it is up to every city and county. Kind of. We just wanted to make sure that the wording in each of these resolutions reflected that at the end of the day, it is up to every city and county to do what they think is best for their cities.
For their unique conditions, yeah.
Absolutely. So it was a great discussion. It went on for a while, and that's what they're supposed to be. So it was good. And that's all I have, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. With that, we move on. We have our information reports in our packets, monthly financial reports, monthly ridership reports, 2023 Denton County Transportation Authority Board of Directors meeting calendar. Is there any discussion from staff on any one of these informational items? Or
Mr. Chairman, I'll invite Keisha to jump in if she'd like to, but with regard to the calendar, I think what we propose is maintaining the cadence that we've had over the course of this year, the 4th Thursday of every month. And there's a budget workshop shown up there in June, like we typically do. We'll kick off our staff budgeting process in March and then come together in June and then for approval in September. Otherwise, barring any other unforeseen circumstances, that's the schedule we would propose.
same thing going all the way through the end of the year, we're potentially combining November, December.
I think we are showing it. We are
it's
assuming a combined November,
fine.
December board meeting.
Any questions?
We're also, for what it's worth, going to be syncing this up with the NTMC board calendar so that we can make sure that those 2 organizations are tied together tight.
Seeing no other questions, then we move on to future agenda items, board member requests. Staff will discuss proposed future agenda items. Board members may request any additional informational item or action item to be addressed at the next board meeting. Is there any requests from the board?
I do,
There is.
yeah. So I mentioned this to Mr. Christina a few weeks ago, and I'd like to kind of just say it, kind of put it out there to my fellow board members. Many of our social service agencies in Denton are incredibly grateful for the discounted passes that DCTA provides for them. The 50% discount is not quite deep enough for some of those agencies. And I would love for the board to have a conversation about a budget amendment in the coming months, perhaps, to expand the number of perhaps more steeply discounted passes or even free passes for social service agencies. And I think of this because our Daily Bread sponsors a work training program, the name of which has escaped my brain. And they every year request bus passes. They requested them last year. I'm assuming they'll request them again this year. And every year it's, well, 50% off isn't quite enough for the number of passes that we need. And so I'd love for us to have a conversation about just funding more of that for those social service agencies.
Would that fall into like something that would roll into our budget discussions? Is that, how would that work?
I think it could come in every different ways. When the idea was first broached, I talked about, it sounds like a sort of policy discussion around our fairs and what sort of exceptions we might make. And so this probably gets framed up in a fair policy discussion best. And we're happy to take that on.
Okay. So that's something in future months, staff could look into that and provide some.
Fairs and passes are fresh in our minds as we've just redesigned all of them for the service change.
We just started.
So we are primed and ready to have a conversation about fairs and passes in the near future.
Okay, then we can just roll this added to that.
Potentially, yes.
Okay. Okay. Other requests? Okay, seeing none. Reports on items of community interest. So this is an opportunity for us to talk about providing opportunity to say thanks, congratulations, condolences, anything on holiday schedules, etc. And
we'll let the board go first, but we do have one I'd like to invite Brittany to share after you all.
Just two quick things. I want to give some appreciation to Dean Euchert and his time serving on NTMC. Dean has put in a lot of time and effort making sure that our citizens are getting the best value for the tax dollars and making sure that we've got an outstanding operation going on over there. So I want to thank Dean. We're already putting him to work on a new city board, but he did the work we needed him to do, and I really am appreciative of it. Is this where we're talking about community events as well?
yes,
In which case, I'm going to remind everybody that we have our lovely holiday at the hall coming this Saturday. Starts as early as 8 a.m. to get pancakes and sausages from the Rotary Club for breakfast. Noon, we have events. We have, I believe, DCTA out there as well. So we've got a lot of groups and organizations who'll be out there, both social service agencies. We've got Serve Louisville with one of their first events, Boys and Girls Club of Tarrant County, who is moving into Denton County, will be there. So if you'd like to find some ways to give back this holiday season, that's great. And we also have bell ringing this next weekend with the Salvation Army. So please, if you don't carry change or cash anymore, there's a QR code you can use. So keep your eyes open for that.
Lots of holiday events. This Friday is the Denton Holiday Lighting Festival on and around the square. It has expanded. There's also a whole bunch of stuff set up in the grounds of the Denton Community Market as well. This is the second most highly attended event in Denton every year after Jazz Fest. So just like I said before Jazz Fest, I highly encourage folks, even if you live in Denton, park at Med Park and take the train downtown to get to the holiday lighting. Because parking will be crazy.
Okay, and following the others, Highland Village will be celebrating what we call our Village Glows, and that's going to be on Saturday, November 19th from 5:30 to 8. The Highland Village Women's Club, we started this years ago. It's going to be at the Shops of Highland Village. We have the Christmas lighting, and then we have schools, students come and sing. We'll have face painting, cookie decorating, carriage rides, horse-drawn carriage rides that'll take you around the shops. So we invite everyone to come and celebrate our village as we glow.
I'd like to,
Mr. Chairman, can we allow, Brittany's got a couple of.
okay, let me go ahead and just give you mine, and then I'm going to turn. it
Oh,
over
I'm
to
sorry,
Brittany.
go ahead.
So just wanted to say congratulations to one of our NTMC board members and current Deputy City Manager David Gaines from our city of Denton. At the beginning of the year, he will become the next town manager in Addison. Wish congratulate him on that. Wish him well in his future endeavors. I also, since this is the last meeting of the year, I do want to express my thanks to the staff of DCTA for all the hard work they've done this year. It's been a transitional year, and you know, I want to just really give my heartfelt thanks, congratulations to Paul and Brittany, Javier, Keisha, the entire DCTA staff for all the hard work and making things just run real smoothly here. So thank you very much for that. So with that, I'll turn it over to Brittany.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, ladies and gentlemen of the board. A couple of other holiday themed items that I want to make you aware of for this weekend. On Saturday, we're reinstituting our Holiday Express, which is an absolutely fantastic event that we do with the Denton County Friends and Family, which is a wonderful nonprofit organization that provides services and shelter for victims of domestic violence. This is an event that we did prior to COVID, and this is the first time that we've brought it back since the COVID-19 pandemic. The A train gets taken over by Santa and the elves. And our last car of the A train, folks can buy a ticket for the Holiday Express. We have two different trains, one leaving from the downtown Denton Transit Center at 9 a.m. and the other leaving at 11. It's a winter wonderland on the DCTA A train where patrons can do all kinds of activities down in Denton, take the train down to Louisville at Hebron Station. We'll have a bunch of different events out there, all kinds of different goodies for the kids, and it all goes to a good cause. So if you haven't taken part in the Holiday Express before, I encourage you all to take a look and perhaps join us out on the platform this Saturday. We've also got the first in our series of 3 readings with Mrs. Claus, and we're doing that in conjunction with our friends at the Shops of Highland Village and Barnes & Noble. DCTA is the proud sponsor of Reading Time with Mrs. Claus, so we'll have readings beginning this Saturday, and they'll run through the next 2 Saturdays following that. The mayor stole my thunder on the Old Town Holiday Stroll, but it is worth noting that we are sponsoring the train for that event. So the little kiddie train, of course, DCTA is a proud sponsor of that. And then one other event I want to make you aware of, and that's next Friday. DCTA is the signature sponsor for the Cross Timbers Rotary Luncheon. That is benefiting an organization called Journey to Dream. And what Journey to Dream does is provide services for kids who are experiencing homelessness. And as someone who was homeless during all of my high school tenure, it's something that's very near and dear to my heart. So very proud that we could be a sponsor of that. Coming down the pike, we've got the Denton Black Film Festival in January. So lots of community events coming up, but hopefully we see you at some of the, what sounds like a plethora of fun, exciting holiday events this weekend. So thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. Okay, well, with that, our next item is what we're going to do here. Let's do this. Let's take a 10-minute recess. And then after that, we will come back and go into executive session, give an opportunity to use the restroom and grab lunch, and then we'll come back in here in executive session. 5 a.m. Okay, we are back from recess. It is 11:46 a.m. Board of Directors are now convened in executive session pursuant to section 551.074 of the Texas Government Code Personnel Matters. The Board of Directors will convene into executive session to deliberate the duties and evaluation of the Chief Executive Officer. It is 11:46 a.m.
as I get recognized more, I'm happy.
Okay, it is 12:43 PM and we are reconvening back into open session. There was no action to be taken at the executive session. So with that, is there a motion to adjourn? Motion, all in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned at 12:44.
Just report, Diane, about